Yo, what's up, guys? Joker here bringing you another video for the 3.19 Lake of Calandra League. And I'm going to speedrun kind of some of my thoughts on the lightning skills because I think I'm making the mistake of league starting it. I'm going to be league starting either with Galvanic Field or Lightning Conduit or spell slinging a combination of them. So it's going to be probably really scuffed, and it's either going to be on an Elementalist, an Assassin, or an Inquisitor, but I'm still working out things in my head, right? So I figured if you're interested in any of these skills, some of the things that may help you, I did like a bunch of research on everything that does shock and everything that I think would help. And I figured I'd just go ahead and throw it together, and maybe you guys can theory craft some things with this. So essentially, for Galvanic Field, you're 10% more damage for 5% shock effect and 1 radius per 10 shock effect. And Lightning Conduit is 10% more damage per 5% shock effect, right? So obviously the top ascendancies, Elementalist, Assassin, Inquisitor, these mainly came to mind because Assassin, when you crit, Inquisitor has a lot of crit plus a lot of other benefits, and then Elementalist has the mastery for always shocking, plus you get golems that you can like spec into as like a Golemancer. That's potentially my other starter. Cast type is probably, it's meant to be a self-cast thing where you're playing a 2-button build, but what I was thinking is either throwing it an Asenath Chant or like a cast when damage taken like Herald of Thunder loop or cast on crit. Those were like my main thoughts if it wasn't self-cast, is either the cock, the Asenath Chant, or the cast when damage loop. And then that brings me to the skills that I was thinking potentially are going to be really helpful. So lightning arrow, just because of the fact that it has the built-in your shock as if you're doing 300% more damage. If you do that with overcharge, then it's going to be like your shock as doing 600% more damage, right? And the point of this is to just go ahead and get the shock on them. It doesn't have to be the hugest shock, because the benefit of lightning arrow is it's dealing the shock like it's 600% more damage. So I can either like 1,000 cut it where I hit them over and over in quick succession, and then the shock's just going to stack over time because the threshold's going to be getting lower, because when you shock you do more damage, so it means the amount of damage you do increases the shock essentially, right? So something like that where I just use a weak skill to apply a shock where it's like 800% more damage that I'm applying it as, right? And then I use the second button to kind of nuke it after I get the boss applied. Once again, I can throw that in a cast when damage taken loop or SNS chant or a cast on crit build, and I feel like it still should work. I mean, lightning arrow should be easy enough to get 100% crit, right? Next thing I was thinking static strike potentially, but then I remembered static strike kind of sucks. The whole thing was for more AoE with the beams, but yeah, the thing that I'm leaning more towards is probably a storm brand with overcharge, just because if I go like a mind over matter storm brand and I overcharge it, it's going to have a fat shock, right? So then I just have to manually hit the other button, and then that should do decent damage. That's most likely. I did a play test, right, with Stormbrand on a 2-link as an Inquisitor, and I made it to Act 4 in like 2 hours. Like there wasn't any damage problems. So I have a very good feeling about that. Ball lightning, once again, a mind over matter archmage type thing, because the ball lightning is going to hit, and I'm going to be able to kind of just spam the other button, right? Because it consumes the shock. So the fact that ball lightning is going to be hitting 3 or 4 times, same thing with the storm brand, right? It's going to be having so much higher of a chance of applying a shock that I think it's going to give me more leverage to just kind of focus on hitting the nuke button, right? Ellie hit is something else. I mean, that's obviously going to be the cast on crit or Asenath, because Ellie with the bow, right? Cast on crit with a bow, or just Asenath chant with like the elementalist. Because Ellie hit can get some respectable damage. And then I was thinking Shock Nova, right? It has the increased the increased effect of shock on its own as well. I mean, you can self cast it if you're some kind of masochist, but Herald of Thunder Auto Bomber might be a thing, right? Something memey is like cold conduction, right? Your shock enemies that are chilled are also shocked. I believe it carries over the direct effect. So if it's like 50% chill, it's going to be, well, it can't, well, you get the example. 50% chill, it'll be 50% shock. So like glacial hammer, cold conduction with the frost breath unique, you'll be able to chill for a shit ton. So potentially double damage. Um, type thing potentially, and then I shot cold conduction. I shot once again Asenath chant to go ahead and proc galvanic field and the other thing. Items that you can use: Void Forge, Ellie damage can shock, Impulsus, shock effect. Yoka suffering is something that I believe I'm going to have to look for directly because it's just so good. I wasn't thinking of it, but when I was looking into it, you get a lot of free res, you get a lot of chance to shock, and you get all your elemental damage can shock and damage for each ailment on the enemy. Hey guys, real quick, if you get any benefit from this or any of my other videos, if you wouldn't mind liking, subscribing, commenting, it does really help me out. It allows me to put more time into it as well. So I really do appreciate it. All right. Next thing I was thinking was essentially Zerfi's Heart. Chaos damage can shock, ignite, and chill. Essentially, just so you can use chaos skills if you want. Maybe, I don't know, fucking that spell slinger soul rends. Your damage will shock, so you'll be able to use it. And then since you're spell slinging anyways, might as well throw it in a link. Stormfire, lightning damage can ignite, maybe some thick ignites if you build it up to like a huge thick hit, right? Agnerod, shock chance, lightning damage pin, +2 to all lightning gems. So those are all things that are really good, right? Voltaxic Rift. So shocks us 300% more. And then 100% increased damage taken with the shock. So it can go up to 100%. It has shock chance and chaos damage can shock. So essentially, if I did lightning arrow, I feel like I'd put it in a Voltaxic Rift just because of the fact that I would be able to get to like 1100% shock. So my flat damage wouldn't even have to be that high because it'll be like 1100% more damage that the hits are actually doing, right? Well, not more damage that they're doing, but more damage that they're shocking as, which would make my nuke button just do that much more damage. Same thing, Doriani's Fist, 30% effect of lightning ailment, 30% shock, free a free large lightning buff. Pretty much, you get a ton of damage from the glove if you're unarmed, if you're not using a weapon, I believe, or unarmed or something. Brain Rattler, 50% free lightning conversion, shocks us 300% more, lightning pin, double damage, and 50% chance to shock. If you're doing anything melee, I believe Brain Rattler would be what you want to use with this spell. Maybe Battle Maging Inquisitor. I don't know. Yeah, I don't even know. I'm going to start an Inquisitor probably, but I don't even know how to play Inquisitor. And then Mind of the Council, 10% shock chance. Attack skills get lightning equal to 6% of the max mana. From what I'm understanding on that, mainly Mind over Matter builds or Archmage builds where you have that thick mana pool. That way you can benefit the most from that. It also has some defensive layers built into it too. Fate of the Ball is something that's pretty cool. It's hits always ignite, freeze, and shock, right? So just hit really fucking hard, and then it's going to be shocked, ignited, and frozen, and then you can press the nuke button. Volico Sign, 25% chance to shock, lightning damage leeches life, lightning damage, and 40% increased against shocked enemies. This is a ring, by the way. And then Keystones, Thunderstruck, lightning damage, crits do knockback. And then Overshock, 30% lightning, 30% ailment. Shocks can go up to make enemies take up to 60% increased damage. Cold conduction, chilled enemies are shocked. Shocked enemies are chilled. Kind of a defensive layer because you're chilling them, like I said, for I believe the same as the shock. So if I do get them up to like 60% shock, then cold conduction is going to be, I'm assuming, a 60% chill, which would be overpowered. Calamitous, 30% LE damage with attack skills, free shock and ailment effect, and then static blows, 20% effective shock, 30% damage if you shocked an enemy recently, 50% crit chance against shocked enemies, and then increased shock duration. So those are a couple of the things that I was just thinking in theory crafting. Like I said, I'm either probably going to start an elementalist and go golemancer, or I'm going to be starting an Inquisitor using most likely Stormbrand to shock enemies with overcharge, and then I'm going to be using a nuke button of either Lightning Conduit or Galvanic Field, or even try to do something with Spellslinger, right? But that's pretty much it. I just wanted to speed run a couple of the things that I was looking into about the new skill. Maybe you can take one or some of these ideas, mash them together, make a good build because you're probably better at it than me. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date. I'm going to be streaming League Start when I get off work, so I'll be probably pretty late, but the next 2 days I'll be pretty early, putting in a lot of hours. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And until next time, take care.